Hi guys, welcome to a video, and in today's video I just wanted to look into the etymology of the word lesbian. I don't know why I said it like that. I'm looking at the kind of history behind the word lesbian. It's quite an interesting one, something I didn't really know anything about. To be honest, I have always been a bit suspicious of the word, and it turns out I was correct to be, but we'll get into that in the video. In the modern day, the adjective of lesbian is used to describe female homosexuality. It is an identity. You could possibly associate it with also a political identity. I would argue even today's meaning isn't a complete straitjacket, but the word has absolutely not always meant female homosexual. The word can be traced as far back as ancient Greece, where it had quite a different meaning, and lesbiazine was a word in ancient times which meant to defile. It is also referred to in ancient Greece as a meaning of fellatio, which is quite shocking. So according to academic sources, the word lesbian is the most ancient term in our current lexicon of sexuality, which is quite, impressive that it survived for so long. It is argued that the very origins of the word is an adjectival form of the island of Lesbos. Lesbos is thought to have been occupied by Aeolian Greeks in the 10th century before Christ. It was also the birthplace and the home of Sappho, who composed poems, some of them definitely not heterosexual and quite definitely lesbian, and that was her home between the 6th and the 7th century before Christ. And it's speculated that her poetry and her fame was significant enough to give the adjective of lesbian its familiar meaning. However, none of this is set in stone. There's a lot of conflicting views and theories around the word lesbian in ancient Greece. The word most certainly has a history and a present of being a malleable word. The word has a history of meaning a woman who is overtly sexual, who is a prostitute, who performs fellatio, which has nothing to even do with lesbianism, or a corrupt woman, or a woman who is defiled. I don't like any of this, but it is what it is. It also crops up in Latin literature. There's a character called Lesbia. It sounds like something out of She-Ra. And she's a woman of dubious sexuality. So there is a bit of a reoccurring theme of essentially somebody who is a sexual deviant, I would say, which makes sense given lesbian history. And Erasmus translates a Greek proverb into Latin, lesbiare, which sounds like a Harry Potter spell, which means to behave like a lesbian, so a defiled woman who performs fellatio. Yeah, trying not to choke on my hot chocolate. The word popped up again in 15th to 16th century Greek and Latin dictionaries, again with multiple meanings, such as harlot, prostitute, and a woman who defiles, which is exactly what my dating profile says. And because Greek and Latin dictionaries and Greek dramas were circulating Renaissance Europe, these texts allude to the very early semantic setup of modern day English. So in the late 19th to early 20th century, there's a book called Slang and its Analogues, Past and Present, which defines the English word of lesbian as a fellatrix of women. And the word fellatrix is entrenched in ancient definitions, which gives us a bit of a link between ye old Greek and Latin and modern day English right there. And more or less kind of supports this theory of circulation. It is also suggested that the term was not solidified in terms of exclusively describing female homosexuality until the early 20th century. Before this point, it just had homosexual connotations. It wasn't an exclusive definition like it is today. The word has a polysemous history. Wow. But it is very interesting to see the journey that the descriptor lesbian has gone on. As with a lot of words, and I think we need to remember there are a lot of words that have changed meaning significantly over the past century, queer and gay being another two words which had absolutely completely different meanings a couple of centuries ago, even a century ago, I was reading Little Women, and the amount of times they refer to something as gay and queer in a completely different context is astonishing. It's not that astonishing, but what I'm saying is words evolve all the time. So we can't really just abandon a word because of its negative history. This is getting quite deep, but what I think is interesting about the history of the word lesbian is it had all these negative connotations, and so does homosexuality. So you can see the link there, you know, about the sexually deviant woman and the lesbian, which is, this is not a video about female sexuality, that's for another time. History, fascinating but enraging for women and gays and anyone who's not white or rich. Yeah, it kind of only suits one type of person. Okay guys, thanks for watching. I hope you found that interesting. If you want to do any further digging, I've linked the academic source in the description. Be aware that academic sources usually do sit behind a paywall, but I'm sure you can find similar sources on Google. A lot of this video was just paraphrasing the academic research other people have done, but hey, goodbye.